I'll be like, yo, that's a whole podcast.
Phoenix, man. Hey, you see people coming on through right now, and Pistons win 112 to 102. Cunningham is 8th triple-double of the season, man. Shout out to Pistons legend Taj Gibson. About to go to the press conference. Talk about it, man.
Hey, you know what? Let me do this a little bit more appropriately. It's your boy Brandon Dent and Detroit Kool-Aid, your credentialed Pistons reporter and writer for the network. We got ball knower Flannel Sam over here, Red Wings correspondent. We got KG in the building, Detroit's #1 draft pick on the sounds. We got JB Smooth, Woodward Sports MVP in the TD space. We got the Godfather stick in the background, and you see that. Feldman Chevrolet of Novi. It's Michigan's #1 Chevy dealer, and all they do is win, 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 win. And you know what? Shout out to the Pistons. Yeah. Victory show, victory shades, a couple of nice wins over the weekend, Flannel Sam. And you know what? They are not satisfied. That's what I like about this Pistons team. They're handling business, though. You would have liked to see them go out there and not get outscored the last 3 quarters of that game. But when they perked right back up, there was so much to like. And you know what? With the Detroit Pistons, first they took out the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid did play. Cade Cunningham did not play. They really bludgeoned them. It was 125 to 112. It didn't really even feel as close as that final score. And Malik Beasley was on fire. Then the second game, the Hornets and the Pistons, a 1 o'clock game yesterday. And the Pistons come away with a 112 to 102 victory. Cade Cunningham with his, as you guys heard it, his 8th triple-double. And you know what? Before we get into the conversation, I want to be able to let you guys hear from one J.B. Bickerstaff on yesterday's win. Because it was interesting. I thought, hey, you guys just got a couple nice wins. You have opportunity to go into All-Star break up 3 games above 500. Let's hear from J.B. Bickerstaff after that game yesterday.
JB, these matchups with Charlotte all season long have seemed to be these wire-to-wire type matchups, at least towards the end of the game. In the fourth, when you guys started to go through that lull, I guess, what did you see from your guys that put them in that spot, and how'd you climb out?
We didn't do the things that we needed to do, and that's, an area that, we're constantly trying to improve upon. There's a standard that we set for ourselves, and we need to hold ourselves to that standard. And tonight we did not. We were outscored in 3 quarters. The last 3 quarters of the game, they outscored us. That's not good enough. So, we were fortunate enough to win, but our expectations are higher than that, and our standard is higher than that, and we did not play to that standard tonight.
Oh, well, dang, Coach. All right, let me take the victory shades off there. Sheesh, because he went in like – everything that he was saying is every reason why I believe these Detroit Pistons are exceeding everybody's expectations is because he's not letting them settle, not in losses and not in victories. He said, yeah, cool, we got the dub, but we got outscored the last 3 quarters of the game. And that, to me, is where I'm just like, you know what? J.B. Bickerstaff is a real one. You see him on the sidelines going for his team. These referees definitely know his name because he is not giving them any respite. He does not play. But with his own team, too, I was wondering, I was like, why, after a victory, why is it taking him so long to get to the podium? And we got in, he just looked frustrated, man. And that, to me, that's why I believe this Pistons team has won in the second half of this season. Well, they're already in the second half of it, but post-All-Star break, they are one to really, really look out for because J.B. Bickerstaff said they didn't play up to playoff standard tonight, even though they got a 10-point win, bro.
Yeah, and I get where J.B. Bickerstaff is coming from. I remember at one point during that game, I think we were all at that point where we thought it was going to be on cruise control. I believe the highest the lead got was like 54-27 or something like that, and the Hornets were playing without LaMelo Ball and just looked terrible out there, and they cut the lead to 2 in the fourth quarter. There were some moments where it was looking way too precarious for how well they were playing earlier. Yeah. But credit to the Pistons because they did get the win. Once it got down to 2, the Pistons immediately extended it to about 9, primarily off the backs of Cade and Dennis Schroder, by the way, which you love to see. And they were able to, for all intents and purposes, cruise home after a little bit of a scare earlier. But a shout-out to J.B. Bickerstaff. I remember – it's just funny because last year, any win in any way, shape, or form was like a minor miracle. The fact that J.B. Bickerstaff can find those justifiable flaws or those correct flaws in a win just tells me all you need to know about him, that he's not satisfied even though the Pistons are over 500 and they went 2-0 on the weekend, one of the games without Cade. That's a fantastic weekend objectively, but there are things to clean up.
Preach, brother. And you know what? Shout out to Dennis Schroder. I liked what I saw from Dennis Schroder, and it was comfortable knowing Like, yo, we got another ball handler. Like, we haven't seen that since Jaden Ivey went down. We got another ball handler who can come in and facilitate. That was our bare minimum wish list, was get us a backup facilitator and some draft picks at the deadline. He did that. Trajan Langdon made that happen for free. And you know when it really, really, really started to look good? It was some questions. I'm going to chop up the audio for Woodward Pistons on Wednesday. I apologize for not having it today. But from Trajan Langdon's press conference and being able to ask him his thoughts on the acquisition of a Dennis Schroder. And, you know, he's not the coach. But clearly he's clued in to what their ideas are. And he said, yeah. You know, ball handling, secondary. But you know what? This guy can play with Cade, and he can run his own units, and we expect him to do both. And he just said it so confidently. And what did you see when it was time for the Pistons to perk back up? One of the reasons why they lost that lead kind of in that third quarter going into the fourth quarter was they sat Cade in the 2-minute mark to go in the third quarter, didn't bring them back until it was a little bit close for comfort. Yeah. And who did they bring back? Both of them. And all game I was asking, like, man, I wonder if we're going to get to see their minutes together. We did in the first 2 plays of them playing together to be able to really take control of this game again were assists to each other, man. Yeah. And that to me was like just a microcosm of what this partnership could be for them and what this can actually do to propel the Pistons forward.
Yeah, it's huge. Them being on the same team, Dennis Schroder being a backup facilitator who can run the bench unit and also play with Cade, I think that elevates their ceiling to where they could end up being like a 43 to 45 win team. One thing I want to shout out, though, just when it comes to the weekend as a whole, the fact that on Friday they were able to get that win with no Cade Cunningham and Dennis Schroder wasn't there yet. And not only a win, they beat the piss out of Philadelphia. Yeah. They made Joel Embiid look terrible. That was just one of the most satisfying wins of the season.
They looked way more physical.
They real physical, like peak level physical, looking like one of the making the Philadelphia Eagles just look terrible. And this was following 2 consecutive losses.
And the way the vets stepped up, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, they had some games, man. Jaylen Duren had a game.
JB, let me just ask you this. This isn't I'm not
No, I saw you, JB.
Get that attaboy. Get that attaboy,
victory lapping the season, I promise. I understand that the Tobias Harris signing has been mixed. I understand at the times that he has been disappointing. But
he's had his moments.
I was going to say, on this weekend, on these 2 games in which they are 2-0, one of them without Cade, averaged 21 points on 59% field goal percentage. Can we at least get one attaboy, just one, just for this weekend?
You did all right.
All right.
That's fair.
We'll take
That's
it,
fair.
man.
That's fair.
And you know what, man? It's interesting, too, because when Jaden Ivey went down, we talked about Tobias Harris and Jaylen Duren needing to be the guys that stepped up. We didn't know at the time, too, that Malik Beasley had another level he could get to. At the time, he was just good 3-point shooter off the bench. And we were looking like, okay, he made 7 threes tonight or 4 threes tonight. Now he's doing a lot more, ball handling, trying to distribute and trying to do a lot more with the minutes that he gets. And it's absolutely working out for the Detroit Pistons. And it's nice to see that if Cade's not there and Ivey's not there, we're not just talking about Cade. Cade and Ivey weren't there.
Yeah.
This team and those vets still stepped up, and that's what you need. Yeah. That's how you put yourself in a position to have less of those nights off that
when
we
was
saw
Bogey
many
doing that?
times. Like,
No,
exactly.
never.
Cade never had that at all, except for Grant, his rookie year.
Right.
That was it, though.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the most promising we've seen them be until now, and it's all coming together for them, man. And shout out to the people who have continued to really stay tapped in with the Pistons yesterday. The environment in the arena was nice.
I know it was.
It was nice. But with the improvement we see out of these Pistons, I think it's because of exactly what they've been saying all season. JB Bickerstaff, they said, has made the information so much more easy to understand. He's putting them in better positions. And I think that he's just straight up being real. I think he just cares about where they're going. Let's hear from Jaylen Duren. There's a couple questions in a row from Jaylen Duren, and he was not necessarily pleased, and he called himself out, pleased with his early season play.
You guys had led at one point by 28. He lit a fire, whatever he said, and it worked. What was that all about? What was the message?
Just got to pick it up. Got a lead early, and we started BSing a little bit, kind of just going through the motions as a team. And honestly, he just made it clear that we're not playing for these. Like we're not worried about. How can I word that? We can't play, like obviously they had a team that was depleted, they didn't have their guys, so we couldn't play down to the competition. and we're playing for obviously things much bigger than that. So it was kind of a variation of that with some other words, but we picked it up and we was able to get it together.
How encouraging is it that you guys can do that and get that message and realize this is not our standard and kind of snap back into it?
I mean, it's cool that. Not cool. It's not cool. Honestly, it's BS. Like it shouldn't have been that type of game. This should have been a game where everybody, got a chance to play, and we didn't have that. So it's not a loss we'll take the win, but this is something that we definitely have to grow from.
Coach talked about playing to your level of standard. Is that something that was set from the beginning of the season, or something that has grown as you guys have had more success this year?
In my opinion, the standard for me has been playoffs. We want to be a postseason team, and since the beginning, this is what I felt like we should be able to do. Some people might have other standards, but that's my standard, and I feel like every night we got to play to that standard.
What are you seeing?
You know what? This team, you talk about accountability, you talk about learning, you talk about taking that next step forward. And this squad, man, it's not just J.B. Bickerstaff, but they got other former head coaches like Luke Walton on the staff right now, and the attention to detail that they're playing for these, that they're paying attention to for these players. What's one of the things I told you I've been seeing all season out of Jaylen Duren in the practices? They've been messing with them. They've been physical with them. It's no more just going through the motions with the drills, which is what I saw last year. This year, they're like pushing them, and he getting mad. They're like, "What? They don't do that to you in the game? You don't get these calls in the game. Back to the line." He's like, "All right, give me the ball. Give me the ball." And then he went and he dunked on him. I'm like, bro, I don't know if your coach's knees work like that. Like, be careful. But that, to me, is what I'm seeing out of Jaylen Duren. One of the top players in the NBA in terms of dunks per game. He's found himself consistently in the top 5 all season. And we've seen him get better defensively as the season has gone on. And I do believe it's because they're taking to heart and they can trust the criticism that you get from a J.B. Bickerstaff. You can trust it. And they're taking the time. And to hear him be able to say, "Y'all was on some softish. I needed to be better." That was on our standard. To hear J.B. Bickerstaff before that talk about the standard as well. He wanted to say, he was about to say it was cool that we were able to overcome. And he was like, "No, it ain't cool.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go out there and punch them in the face." That to me I was like, dang. And I was like, "No, what is your standard?" He's like, "I don't know about everybody else, but for me, from the beginning of the season, it's been playoffs." He didn't say play in. Playoffs.
Yeah.
Playoffs. That's what I'm saying. The growth of this team, man. The growth of this team, especially underneath J.B. Bickerstaff and the work that we know these players are putting in, man. Like, think about it. Even before Jaden Ivey went down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, you know what? Keep it going. Point Ausar. We didn't
Ausar.
call him out. Point Ausar.
Yeah.
I love Ausar. I've been screaming that.
Man.
Him in this starting lineup has been really, really good.
Said the usage rate is all he needs. He's the perfect player to put next to a Cade Cunningham because, you know what? He can play support. Okay, Cunningham's not in tonight. Okay, cool. I can go back to doing what I was doing with Overtime Elite. That was what? Point Ausar.
Yeah.
He's not, it's not like he's a stranger to what we saw. But to see these guys actually making the step, we're all talking about just young players right now.
Yeah.
And Cade is still young. It's just like, these guys are impressing me from the coaching staff down to what the players are doing, and they aren't satisfied.
Yep. And I gotta point Ausar. I think that other than being super physical with the 76ers and Malik Beasley's onslaught, I think point Ausar was the thing that we were all the most excited about other than that, and maybe the most excited about, period, because it was working. That offense was flowing smoothly like the Mississippi River. And I got to give credit to somebody who has had some questionable takes, and I've called him out for it. In my opinion, questionable takes. We're all entitled. Wheezy D313.
Hey.
Here we go.
Shout out Wheezy.
Loved point Ausar. His brother ain't better. He just get all the usage. You know what, Wheezy? I agree. Fair.
It's fair.
You guys were
It's
a little bit
fair.
earlier to the party than me. I thought it was a little bit disrespectful, at least up until now, to call Ausar as good as Amen. But at the same time, Ausar, you see what he can be when he gets all of the usage. And we have to remember, too, he was coming back from a blood clot. He got eased in. So now we're really seeing not the totality of his skill set, because he's only going to get better because he's so young, but just his impact on games. It's prolific. And Ausar Thompson, he deserves a ton of credit. I mean, even if it's just for that one game, and I'm not saying it's been way more than that one game, but seeing a skill set that some of us didn't even necessarily know that he had to that level was a 100% revelation. I know people like Wheezy and you, Kool-Aid, were a little bit earlier to the party, but consider me arrived at the party.
Well, my opinion was, honestly, it was influenced because of some connections and sources we got at the network that know them personally, played with them, know their work habits, know their workout habits. What was the one thing that we knew there was a difference between the two of them? Both of them work out, but only one of them was considered a gym rat. Both of them were really good, but only one of them was the actual facilitator on the team. That didn't mean that Ausar could not go out and be a scorer, but he was a facilitating gym rat. I promise you, just from if I'm a coach or if I'm a guy who wants to play on a connected team like Woo Crew is, I want that guy on my squad. No diss to Amin, who can do it all too. He's great too. No slight at him. But just the things that I liked out of Ausar Thompson, I saw fully on display. And his ability to be effective, whether he's getting the usage rate or not, is what attracted me to Ausar Thompson, the player, a little bit more than Amin, who I think he thrives in when the usage is high. Defensively, those guys are going to do what they do throughout the entire game. But I just like Ausar Thompson a little bit more outside of those other situations. And you see it on full display every single game. And then you get to see exactly the full ceiling of a type of player he can be when Cade Cunningham isn't there and he steps into that role, and it looks like he's back at overtime elite running the break.
Yeah, I tell you what, if he become the two-way player that I think that he can become,
hey bro, just say he's
my
becoming.
God,
just
yeah,
say
well,
it.
yeah,
Just say
yeah,
it.
we'll say it. Yeah, he's becoming that player because I mean, it's amazing, man. The fact that he's going out there and he can get his own bucket now, because I think that was the biggest thing in the Amin in his game is that Amin is a little more well-rounded offensively. He can go out there and get his own bucket. But now that we're seeing that out of Ausar Thompson, combined with the fact that you can deploy him to defend 1 through 5, combined with the fact that he's actually a pretty good playmaker, man, I love this draft pick. I love how he's coming along right now. And that's just the great thing about JB Bickerstaff is you're actually seeing the development in real time. And it's so beautiful to see. That's why I was so glad he wasn't, happy about last night. Yeah, it's cool we got the win, but when you have a young team like that, you have to stay on them and have them learn these lessons even in wins, because there's lessons to take even in wins. So, man, shout out to them, man. They balling right now.
And you know what we saw, too? We talk about wanting to see Schroder and Cade Cunningham minutes, and we got to see that. Guys, how sexy were the Ron Holland and Ausar Thompson minutes? Defensively, they were on it. They were getting into the passing lane. That is when you talk about future, that to me is the future type stuff right there. And you can play them together because they realistically are both very, very versatile players. Ausar can realistically play the 1 through the 5. Ausar Thompson can realistically play the 1 through the 3. He can, in pinches, try and play the 4, but he got to get the weight up a little bit.
Right.
But to see the progress that he's making, to see the confidence that he has, to see it was a question that we pondered when Dalton was there, and they went with Holland. But then we brought it back down, and the question that we asked and immediately agreed with was this: if it's just a 3-point shooting that we got away for Ron Holland, is he a hell of a player? And we said, you know what? He is. Defensively, he was able to also, on the offensive side of the ball, handle a high usage. And so it's like to be able to shout out and see how they're able to win with the vets, but also these young players taking that step forward, man. Goodness gracious, it's good to see, and that's what I believe is going to bolster this team in the second half.
Yeah, obviously I had some well-known issues with the Ron Holland pick at first, but in my defense, I didn't know that the Pistons and Trajan Langdon would address a lot of the shooting needs with veterans, and Malik Beasley has been an absolute revelation, but I should have tempered my reaction. I will give you that, because Ron Holland, what he's provided to this team in terms of impact defensively and with athleticism, you can't really put a price on that. I think he could potentially give some teams some issues come playoff time if he's in the playoff rotation.
And just so you guys do know, Troy Weaver is the one that had Ron Holland #1 on his draft board, per some sources, some direct sources. It was Troy that actually got that rolling, but Trajan Langdon was like,
shout out.
Trajan Langdon was like, oh, I do too, though.
So,
hey. He did too. So he came in and was like, look, this is the pick. And it's interesting to see in those NBA worlds how they actually think about Ron Holland and his coach. Yeah. Shout out one of his trainers, Coach Jay. Rank Management, connected with Ashton and Cannon, those guys. They've come to the studio. They've supported. Got to link up with him out at Summer League and everything. He said it. He believed that he just needed this type of training. this type of training, like not just focusing on everything else he was before with school and family, work, and life and all of that.
Yeah.
But now he gets the opportunity to just focus on building up strength, shooting, and then doing the things that you already do good. And we see it working out for him.
Him not in the Rising Stars game is a fucking crime. I just want to state that.
Hey,
for the
look,
record.
bro, we
Go ahead,
talked to
Stick.
his
My
pops
bad.
about it.
No, it's fine. Just while we're stroking everybody on the roster, just wanted to throw Isaiah Stewart.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, like,
Stu, dog.
you know
we
what?
posted
Yes.
a quote on our social media about him saying defense. I love defense.
Yeah.
So much better than last year with Monty Williams. I'm Isaiah Stewart. I'm going to start shooting 3-pointers. I'm going to hang out in the corner and be your spot up 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not a microcosm for you putting a square peg in a round hole and Monty Williams not knowing what the fuck he's doing with the people that he has on his
my
team.
gosh.
Isaiah Stewart coming out and saying that, like, I love defense. That's all you should have ever done when you got in this league, dude. You should have been Ben Wallace 2.0, and that's how we dealt with it. If you can make a shot, cool, but I don't need that out of you. Him trying to learn to shoot 3-pointers was the worst coaching decision I've ever seen in my life. But to his credit, he's like, all right, you want to learn to shoot 3-pointers? All right, I'll go shoot fucking 3-pointers.
And I'm
like,
okay with him learning to be
Yeah, I don't
serviceable.
think it's the worst decision.
But the way they
what?
use
It
no.
shouldn't-
What?
but-
No. The parts.
Hold on, Stick.
No,
was
the
he
parts-
ever going to be your go-to
no,
guy?
but that wasn't the point, Stick.
No. It's where Stick is right is this. They still have him working on 3-point shooting.
Yeah,
and the thing,
like-
but the amount of attempts last year, it was like 6. There was
Exactly,
times when he was taking 3 in
that's
the
the
first
point.
quarter.
Right.
You
You
were
shouldn't
removing
rely on
your
that.
paint defender and your paint rebounder from the paint.
And what have I been saying?
Why?
What have I been saying the last 3 years? And to Woodward Pistons OGs, y'all notice, I've been saying just let him be your paint defensive version of Corliss Williamson. We knew when Corliss was in there, he was a Tasmanian devil on offense.
Yeah.
It's over for whoever's defending him. It didn't matter if it was a bigger defender, a smaller defender, medium size. It was Corliss going to work in the paint. He was the big nasty. But I believe that Isaiah Stewart, thank you for teeing this up, Stick, was the same type of player from a defensive side. Just let him be a Tasmanian devil in the paint. Let him go in there and just wreak havoc. Who wants to continue to contend with him? Now all of a sudden you're taking your bruiser out of the middle.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden teams can get comfortable in the middle. And what did they look last year? The first 2 or 3 games of the season, when they were being bruisers in the paint, that's when we saw them look their best, sadly, out of all of last season. Then they started having them be perimeter stew, and the physicality and how comfortable players were, guards just skipping all through the lane and just whoop-de-doo layups and such. Do you understand how many times they were able to come in, rest their star, and some backup guard went off on us? I was puking, bro. Desmond Bain, he owned us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like this year, though, they're playing so much more physical, and I do believe some of that starts with putting Stu in the paint, because how is Jaylen Duren going to learn from your longest tenured Detroit Piston if you're not even having him in the paint? What's Jaylen Duren going to learn?
That's real.
I'm just like, man, that's a good point, Stick.
Hey, Kool-Aid. that technical foul that Stu got last. No, that was so funny. I already knew you had a reaction to it. They said, okay, the contact was unintentional, but because the foul was, I guess, so egregious, they had to call something. I had never heard that ever. So I knew you had a reaction to it. It was hilarious, man.
Bro, have mercy.
I was
These
listening
refs,
to
dog.
Lindsay. I was driving around going to
Shout
the
out
store,
to
picking up
Legend
stuff
Lindsay.
from the store. And, man, Lindsay was going crazy on the play-by-play. So shout out to Lindsay, man, on the radio broadcast.
None of
But-
us know what it is. They were like, it was unintentional. It was a basketball play. This is what happens. But we just feel like we
Yeah,
want to
like-
give him a technical. What? We don't want to give him a
It's
flagrant.
crazy.
We don't want to throw him out the game, and they knew if he got a flagrant, guess what? He's suspended for the next game.
Right.
So-
and it would have been outrage because it didn't warrant that.
But a technical, do you know how many times I see Cade get hit after plays?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I see the incidental stuff and Cade is sitting there? Remember there was a time when Cade was just bleeding all down his mouth and there was no call. There was nobody who wanted to go and replay anything and say, you know what, we just want to be able to tackle on the technical just to do it. The fact that this happened to the Pistons, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? It's almost the Kirby Joseph effect. You guys are pissing people off. They are. They're playing physical brand of basketball, and you've heard some of the other teams pop up. Oh, they think that that's what they are, but that's us. That's us.
Right.
I don't hear the Indiana Pacers step to the podium and talk that greasy, except for after they play the Pistons, and they're invoking this out of these other teams. And I think JB Bickerstaff wants to smoke.
Yeah,
he
he do.
put his team, bro. He put his team right there on the target. And said, yeah, you know, if this what the Pacers want, that's what it is, man. They want to talk like this, but they didn't do that when we beat them, you know.
Right.
And they building, and then the next 2 games, you know what? His team got popped, and JB Bickerstaff was able to use that as a teaching moment, but also to say, no, quit making me look bad.
Right.
I said they were better than the Pacers. JB Bickerstaff stepped to the podium and said it, and then he got popped. And I see this guy still saying no. And the wins and then the losses, raise your level of standard, man.
Yeah.
Raise where you're going to be at. And I see that out of this team this year, man. It's a beautiful thing to see and to cover.
Yeah. Weezy, once again, I've never hated on Beef Stew. The only thing that I ever said was that he was undersized and that could affect his game. But clearly I was wrong about that. So, I've never said anything negative about Beef Stew.
And honestly, just one more thing to wrap a bow on this when it comes to players who we need to give credit to. Yes, it's clear that I was too reactionary when it comes to Ron Holland, and it looks like I'm going to be proven to be wrong. However, here's what I will say. I think the roster construction, more specifically somebody like Malik Beasley, has allowed somebody like Ron Holland to play more his game instead of needing him to be the shooter that he's not yet. Same with Ausar Thompson, and heck, even same with Isaiah Stewart. I agree with you, KG. I'm not mad at them because Isaiah Stewart wasn't a bad three-point shooter last year. They needed somebody, but at the same time,
you can't rely on that though.
100%.
Yeah, 6 attempts.
That's crazy.
I do agree though that even though his counting stats, well, they're not counting stats. Their counting stats don't look like they were last year. His impact is much greater in a role that he is almost his instinct dictates that he should play because he just has that instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Shout out to the Pistons. You got 2 more games before All-Star break, and it's against the Bulls, the lowly Bulls, in their home. It's a back-to-back. You got to go out there and just straight up punch them. Warren Feldman. Just punch him in the face. Punch him in the face. That's all I can say, man. Just go out there and punch him in the face. But shout out to the Pistons. They still stay in that 6th place, 6th seed right now. They are 27-26 on the season right now with opportunity to go into All-Star break 29-26.
Told you, even if it's a game, they'll be above 500 at All-Star break.
That's what I wanted, man. And
even if it's one game.
There is no chance they're getting swept by the Bulls. So I agree. They're gonna be at least one game over 500.
And
honestly, if I were to make a prediction, I do think they probably split because something tells me that a Kobe White or a Vucevic just like go off game happens. But I could be wrong. Hopefully
that's last year's Pistons, and if we want to see the team be different, that's where I'm like, you know what? You go out there and pop them.
That's why games. I think it's more likely that it's Vucevic than Kobe White. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. You know what, man? Hey, let's get a like poll going as well. And we got to get into the next segment, say what up, though, to some friends. And then we got to we gotta take care of some business, I think, too, if you don't mind me hijacking things real quick.
Absolutely.
So what friends do we got to say what up, though, to?
KG, you want to do merch?
Merch.